Now, what is Australia really like? Now, as you could probably tell, I'm a citizen, I've got the language figured out, and I'll break down whether or not it's worth visiting Australia, moving to Australia, or just having anything at all to do with Australians or the Aussies. Right, so I live in Melbourne, and Melbourne is essentially the New York City of Australia. It's the most modern, it's the most culturally diverse, it's the most hip, it's the most cosmopolitan, it's the most financially savvy, and it's the most hustle and bustling city here in all of Australia. Of course, it doesn't even come close to the real New York City, but there you go for a bit of a comparison. Now, there's two types of people who kind of live in Australia. That's the Aussies and the Australians. And the big difference is that the Aussies are the British convicts that got sent to a desert island because, as we know, Australia was a prison colony. So they're the ones that were sent here, they're the ones that are stuck here, and they're the ones that you run the government, big business, all those sorts of things. There's always an Aussie behind it. They don't want the outsiders to actually get their hooks into any sort of government Australian infrastructure. Then, of course, you've got the Australians, which are people like me. Now, I'm originally from Europe, the good part of Europe, and yes, although I do speak the language and participate in somewhat cultural events around here, I still don't give a shit about the Aussies, and I'll never be one of them, and I don't really want to. Now, Australian culture or Aussie culture is a bit retarded when compared to the rest of the world. Australia is essentially it's a welfare country. It relies on global handouts to keep itself afloat, and you'll notice this pretty quickly, because what does Australia do well at anything, whether it's film, it's television, it's technology, it's manufacturing, whether it's athletics? There is nothing that Australia does well at anything. Every time it tries to compete with any other country, it loses so hard, and that's just due to the Aussies themselves. They're just incredibly lazy, incredibly stupid, and they're just the British scum that they sent to a desert island to die. Now, Aussies hate the rest of the world. They especially hate America, and this is just due to the fact that, America's number one. If you want the best of whatever happens in America, best culture, technology, food's another completely different topic, but the best of the best comes from America. The Aussies hate that. They hate the fact that America just outshines them, so the Aussies just like to dump on America for the strangest reasons. As we know, in America, they've got cheddar cheese. Now, in Australia, no one calls it cheddar cheese. They call it tasty cheese here because, to stick it to America for whatever reason. And then you've got other dumb Aussie inventions. You've got like Vegemite. Now, Vegemite is just a byproduct from making beer, and they've taken that and they've turned it into a food that doesn't taste all that appealing. But whenever people talk about Australia, they talk about Aussies, they talk about Vegemite, and it's literally it's a byproduct of beer manufacturing. That's all it is. And that's what the Aussies are proud of, their beer byproduct. That's a great Aussie invention. Now, Aussies in recent times have actually started sucking up to Asia. The Aussies love Asians, particularly Southeast Asians like the Chinese, Vietnamese, Thai people, all that sort of thing, the Philippines. And they're all coming over to Australia in droves. This also includes Indians. And all these people are just swarming Australia. All of the major cities are absolutely filled with Southeast Asians. And that's honestly kind of the future of Australia. It's going to turn into a Hong Kong. It's going to turn into a Singapore, where it's some sort of weird financial hub that does the world's accounting, and that's about it. It's going to become a paperwork hub. So a lot of the third world Asians, a lot of the Southeast Asians sold up all the crap that they had in the homeland, moved down to Australia, and are kind of living the Western dream. And this is the way culture has been going for the last 10 or 15 years, but it's really ramped up since COVID. Ever since COVID, literally before COVID and after COVID, they were just swarmed with Asians. Now, the employment market was especially sucky, but due to cultural diversity and all that sort of crap, yes, they're stealing that idea from the US, but of course they don't want to say it out loud. Now, should you move to Australia? I mean, it's a first world Western country, isn't it? Well, I'll just break it down financially. Here's the thing. Let's say you've got millions of dollars, you're an educated dude, you're somewhat intelligent, and you're from a first world country, somewhere in Europe or the US. Why would you want to move to Australia? That's the big question. What is it it down here that you want or that you like. It's a giant desert island in the middle of nowhere. And again, if you're doing well in life, you've got millions of dollars, you're in some sort of industry, whatever it could be, why on earth would you move down here? When you could live just about anywhere else in the world and it has much better facilities, much better culture, much nicer people, and it's much closer to just about anything good. So again, why would you move down to a desert island in the middle of nowhere? Now, when it comes to employment, all of the easy jobs, all of the easy careers, they are gone. They have been filled by the Aussies, or they've been filled with diversity hires. You can absolutely come here and start working in any single profession, but keep in mind you will not be making the good dollars. You will always be getting a shitty position, working shitty hours and shitty pay. You might be able to wrangle up a high paying job, but more than likely the stress and the toxic environment will absolutely kill you within 6 to 12 months and you'll just get churned out. But the good life, the Western life, the dream, easy living, big money, living large, that was here in like the 80s and the 90s, and it is definitely gone and it is not coming back anytime soon. Now, coming back to migration, all that sort of thing, the only people that do come here are Asians, Southeast Asians. No one from Europe comes here anymore, and they haven't for a long time. Now, a lot of fun stuff that the rest of the world has that you can do in other countries is actually quite illegal down here in Australia. Freedom is absolutely illegal down here in Australia. The government wants to be part of your life every day. And yes, Australia is like a massive Twitter. It is a giant police state. Snitching is really big down here in Australia because people just want to cozy on up to the government for unknown reasons. The government doesn't care about you. The government doesn't like you. The government just wants an excuse to just do government bullshit. And by welcoming that into your life, you're going to end up worse off than you were before. But still, people just love the government down here. Now, in terms of visiting Australia, I mean, if you've got tons of money, you can absolutely visit Australia. Now, as someone that has worked in the tourism industry, I can tell you right now, coming to Australia, you should book yourself in 5 to 7 nights in a major city like Melbourne or Sydney. Do all the typical tourist crap and then just get the hell out of here. Mainly think of visiting Australia as ticking off some sort of world travel checklist. You come here, you do the koala bear thing, but you don't really stick around because there's just nothing here. The tourist attractions are fine, the hotels are fine, the restaurants are fine, everything is completely overpriced, but you'll get a certain level of quality if you stick to all the tourist destinations and tourist hotspots. The locals are just there to suck as much money as they can out of you. But again, if you've got too much money and you just want to visit Australia to just say, hey, I've done the Australia thing, you can definitely do that. And you will have a pretty decent time. But then again, just plan for 5 to 7 nights and you can literally see and do everything the best that Australia has to offer in literally a week. But if you're one of those weirdos who wants to see the desert, see the bush, which is just sand and heat and dryness, I mean, you can definitely do that. But yeah. Anyway, there you go. So that's Australia from someone who sort of lives here as a citizen and is well exposed to all the culture and the people and all the sort of bullshit that's here. Like, the only people that I see coming to Australia are, once again, like the Southeast Asians. No one else is really stupid enough to consider moving to Australia. I meet the occasional European, I meet the occasional American, meet the occasional Canadian, but literally 8 out of 10 people coming here are from Vietnam, India, China, those sorts of countries. And that's sort of like the future of Australia right there. No one well off, no one educated, no one financially stable, no one working in any great industry comes to Australia. I have never seen any sort of Aussie that hasn't done a rug pull in just about any industry, whether they're actors or musicians or they're in business. They're all just setting up the rug pull, luring in as many people as they can, selling them crap, selling them bullshit, and then just disappearing. It's like the Aussie way. So consider yourself warned if you interact with, if you participate in any sort of Aussie crap, you have now been warned and you cannot claim ignorance.